Unleashing the fury like an untamed beast, locked in a cage where strength is released. Striking precision, grappling with might, the golden octagon. The stage we ignite. Unleashing the fury like an untamed beast, locked in a cage where strength is released. Striking precision, grappling might, the golden octagon. The stage we ignite.
And we are live. Welcome to the Golden Octagon MMA Podcast with your hosts, Matt and D Rose.
What's going on, boys? Welcome to another Golden Wednesday here at the Golden Octagon YouTube channel. I am your host, D Rose. So we have been kind of having a little bit of an issue. Me and Matt were kind of scrambling a little bit, but we wanted to make sure the show still went on for today. So he wanted to make sure that I was still able to get on here, be able to try to put on the show for you guys. But we also actually have a special guest since Matt is not going to be able to step into the show today. And it's going to be a good one. You guys are going to be psyched to hear it. And let me go ahead and introduce the main man himself. Thankful to join us tonight. It is Sugar Sean O'Malley, man. I mean, I think it is so awesome that, he had a fight coming up this weekend and everything, but still has the time to stop in on the Golden Octagon this Wednesday, right before Saturday, before the fight. Stop in and chat with us, man. Sean, how's everything going, man? And how's the preparation going for the week?
Shout out you, D Rose, and I'm glad to step in here for our guy Matt on a short notice, late replacement. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Golden Octagon MMA Podcast. My name is Sugar Sean O'Malley, and D Rose is on that side of your screen. This took time today, y'all. Look at your boy here with the terrible face tattoos. I'm sweaty, my head kind of hurts, but looking okay over here on the Golden Octagon MMA channel. Hope y'all all are having a fantastic day. If you guys don't mind, hit that thumbs up button for your boys. And let's pretty much get into the show. How this is going to work today, me and D-Rose are going to recap UFC Vegas 107. I have to eat 3 beans this week because I got clean sweep. D-Rose, I went 2 of 9 on my picks last week. That's terrible. That's by far the worst night I've ever had. Just terrible.
Yeah,
luckily,
on a lot
I
of
only
dogs.
bet like $30. Yeah. I only bet like $30 last week, so I was like, it is what it is.
Gamrot saved my night. I had a little chase with Gamrot late, and he pretty much saved my night.
That's good. We got to get into our UFC news and fight announcements, and there's a lot this week. Tons of interesting news happening since we've been gone this past week. And then lastly, we'll get into our UFC 316 Q. The glass break, Stone Cold Steve Austin music. We got Merab Dvalishvili taking on Sean O'Malley. Number 2. Our prediction, our preview, and our picks, all that good shit. Let you know what we're going to be betting on and all that good stuff. Before we get into that, D-Rose, how have you been over the past week or so, my guy? Did you win any bets this past weekend aside from the Gamrot that you just not told us about?
No, I did not. I did not win any other bets. Jordan Levitt, I thought round 3 a decision, maybe first round submission, and for him to get it that easy, that killed me. So, I wasn't too heavily invested this weekend because it was kind of like it was a tough card to call. Let's just be honest. So I wasn't too crazy, but yeah, other than Gamrot, I did Gamrot and for round 4 to start in the main event. And of course, we're going to get into that, but that didn't start as well. So Yeah, rough weekend, I think, overall for UFC Apex. What was it, 107?
Yeah, 107 this past week. So let's get into the chat. Can't wait for tonight's. I'm sorry, we got Antoine. Can't wait for tonight, boys. Pay-per-view indeed. I'm excited. I asked D Rose earlier. I was like, man, are you excited for this weekend? He was like, you're more excited than I am for sure. but we'll get into it. Also, going through some BS on the side hustle. Hope you all are all having a good Wednesday. Not too bad, Antoine. I'm sorry you're going through some stuff, man. We got Lush Lomana here, Golden Wednesday with the boys. Shout out Lush for making it in here. We got Austin in here.
Sure.
Wagwan, brothers. I see it'll be Bean Bop time. I got the Bean Bop shirt on, Austin. And guess what? The Bean Bop. And it don't stop. Oh my goodness, let's go.
Is it bad that I can say that with your corners and everything, and you kind of give off a road dog from
Whoa, oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Hell yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Let's go, road dog.
I hope y'all are all having a fantastic night, y'all. Matt looks like Riff Raff. Funny enough, Dave, I was Riff Raff for Halloween a few years ago, and it was pretty spot on. It was pretty spot on. All right,
Wow.
dude. With that, let's get into our UFC Vegas 107 recap real quick. So this past weekend, we had Macy Barber taking on Erin Blanchfield, and before Macy Barber was to walk, apparently she had a seizure. Now, it's been not quite a week removed, 4 or 5 days. You know, people have gotten to talk a little bit here and there, and I've heard a few people talk, and I've heard a few people say behind the scenes that, you know, maybe not a seizure. It was more of an anxiety thing, and she just was about to walk and was like, nope, I'm not doing this, which would make a lot more sense. Because how can you not go through with a medical thing as you're about to walk? All your medical stuff has been passed all this past week. And what causes you to have a seizure as you're walking out? Like, what didn't like the medicals catch that would cause you to have a seizure right after warming up? To me, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It kind of seems like an anxiety thing. Also, she did miss weight, and you know, I'm pretty sure everyone spotted the new additions, her new bolt-ons this past weekend. Probably caused her to miss weight. But Erin Blanchfield kind of called it earlier before the fight even happened that she didn't think that the fight was going to happen. I really wanted this fight to happen. I was on Macy Barber hard this past weekend, and I'm not the biggest Macy Barber fan. I just thought she was going to win that fight, but I guess give me your thoughts on the entire situation and I guess where we go from here.
Yeah, no, it definitely sucked, you know, getting to the main event and then all of a sudden, you know, you see the feature, you know, basically the promo right before the main event play, and then all of a sudden, you know, nobody walks out. You're like, what in the world's going on? And I'm kind of with you in the fact that I, of course, we're not doctors. We're all speculating here. We're just kind of grabbing stuff off of MMA Twitter and MMA, you know, out in the MMA social media sphere to kind of grab from these stories. But I am kind of with you to think that maybe it was some type of like maybe panic attack or something like that. It could have been something like that too, or apparently she did fall out. She said one of her coaches told her that she had fallen out, so maybe it was something related to that. Or I do remember the time, and I saw the story out as well. It was Chaz Skelly and Andre Ewell. Chaz Skelly actually had a similar situation. Chaz Skelly had actually walked out to the octagon, and he was standing in the octagon ready to go, and hell yeah. No, but yeah, I forgot about that. But Chaz Skelly actually had one of those incidents in the octagon to where he wasn't able to fight, and it was right before the announcement happened. I hate to see it happen to Macy because, she's one of my favorite fighters. And, I would love to have seen her gotten a big win. And it just sucked just because it was kind of like that was really the most looked forward to fight on the card. And that fell out. It's like, man, that was a rough night.
Indeed, man, indeed. So the actual main event was Mateusz Gamrot versus Ludovic Klein. I did pick Ludovic Klein to win that fight. Mateusz Gamrot was able to just get the takedowns, man. There were a few times when it looked like Ludovic Klein may have wobbled Mateusz Gamrot just a little bit, but ended up nothing really happened for the most part. And Mateusz Gamrot wins the fight via decision. Anything there, man? I guess before you answer, I really don't see Gamrot being a title contender just because it seems like UFC wants to keep him as far away from that title as they can. He's probably going to beat a lot of people that have trouble stopping the takedowns, but he seems to at least not be declining that much. If you have power, you can hurt him, but he's kind of like that gatekeeper to the top 5, man. So I guess what's your thoughts on Gamrot versus Ludovic Klein?
Yeah, I mean, I know, as you said, we had talked last week and we were kind of, when we talked Sunday, I was kind of thinking that, I might pick Ludovic Klein too, but it was just more going into the fight week, looking at who each of them had fought. That's why I was like, man, I just, I had to pick Gamrot. I mean, Gamrot is, is he everybody's favorite fighter? No, not necessarily. He does have some banger fights, though. He can put on a fun performance every now and then. His striking is pretty good. We know about his wrestling and his scrambling ability and all that good stuff. So, well-rounded. I thought he really put the pressure on Klein there. As you said, Klein may have landed a couple good strikes here or there, but I just thought for the most part, Gamrot just neutralized him. Gamrot just had such an string of circumstances happen because he was a backup fighter. He literally weighed in as the championship backup fighter for when it was supposed to be Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. And instead of them using him as the backup fighter, they end
because
up
Charles missed weight. That was the wild part. Oh no, D-Rose is frozen. Oh no. Let's see if he unfreezes. Let's see. I know he's been having a few issues.
You got me.
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard you say, instead of using Gamrot, and then I said, yeah, because Oliveira actually fucking missed weight in that fight too, in Oliveira's still fall.
Yeah. Well, no, it was for the Islam versus Charles. It was supposed to be for the second fight when they were scheduled in Abu Dhabi. Gamrot was the backup fighter, and instead of using him, they brought Volkanovski in off the couch instead of using Gamrot. It's like, how is he the backup fighter and he still gets passed over? It's the UFC just doesn't like him, man. He's just going to have to reel off as many wins as he can to try to get to that top. But as you said, I think he's more kind of like that gatekeeper role right now.
Yeah, man. So moving to the new co-main event, it was our fisting of the week, dude. And Billy Ray Goff was fisting Ramiz Brahimaj. And then he shot for a takedown, got his neck wrapped up. He was like, whoa, that's not safe. Pulled his head out of there and then stuck his head right back into it, dude. Got guillotined. It was just like, come on, Billy Ray Goff. What are you doing there? I think everyone and their mom was picking Billy Ray Goff this past weekend. And unfortunately, he did not win. He got choked unconscious in the first round. But that's Ramiz Brahimaj's way to win, dude. It's round one, and that's it. What's your thoughts on the new co-main event?
Yeah, and as you said, he won in the first round as he normally does. I was pretty surprised at Billy Ray Goff. I didn't have a whole bunch of bets, but I did have him even just money line because I was like, you know what, it could go to a grimy decision, or he could sneak a submission because I was pretty confident that he was going to get a knockout. But I was like, you know what, let's just play money line. And as you said, he shot in a couple different times when we know how dangerous Ramirez Brahimaj is with the chokes and stuff like that, especially those front chokes. And that's one of his favorite techniques. And for Billy Ray Goff, I thought he was going to go out there and use a little bit more of his striking. It's like he almost wanted to prove a point with the wrestling and ended up getting caught in the process. So that was a hell of a submission for Brahimaj, though, and he ended up putting him out. I mean, it felt like it was like 5 seconds, and all of a sudden, Billy Ray Goff is falling out unconscious. So 6 submission.
Yeah, man. So moving on down, we got Dustin Jacoby and what was this guy's name? Bruno Lopez. Dustin Jacoby puts him out in the first round. That's what you wanted to be your fisting of the week, but we did pick different there. So we kind of had to agree on something. Hopefully you made some money on the Dustin Jacoby knockout.
No, I did not, because again, I parlayed it with Billy Ray Goff. And I had another one with Dustin Jacoby, and I had it parlayed with Rayani Dos Santos. So it's like I had all the right reads in most of them, but not all of them. But me being a Dustin Jacoby fan, I mean, that's normally what he pretty much brings to his fights, man. Just absolute chaos for the most part. He's a very technical kickboxer. He's got good power. He has dropped guys with a jab before. Like, that's not his first time hurting somebody with a jab. But just set Bruno Lopez down. And Bruno Lopez, like, I'll give him credit. Like, he just ended up saying, you know what? I'm not going to be able to survive this. I'm going to go out on my shield. Like, he stood there like back against the fence and was swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
But yeah, after he got rocked, it was like he just could not get his bearings back, and Dustin Jacoby got him out of there. Hell of a knockout for Dustin Jacoby, man, and a nice little streak he's on right now with the knockouts too.
Yeah, for sure. One that probably busted a whole bunch of parlays. I know I had Macy Chiasson money line and damn near everything I had bet. And Ketlen Vieira, I wish I would have saw this coming. Ketlen Vieira weighs in at 146 pounds, and I was like, hey, what the fuck? This fight's at 135. And then Macy Chiasson gets up there looking shredded, in shape, weighs 144, and I'm like, Ketlen Vieira probably told everyone last night, she was like, hey, I'm not going to make 135. They end up fighting at 145, which isn't even a weight class anymore, man. When that shit happened, I was immediately pissed. I was like, some bullshit's going to happen here because she's got a 10-pound fucking weight advantage. And sure enough, Ketlen Vieira goes out there and just wrestles Macy Chiasson all 3 rounds and just pretty much had a bullying weight advantage, man. Anything on this fight, man?
Yeah, that's pretty much. I kind of had the same thoughts. Again, Macy Chiasson was another one that I was pretty big on in the week, in terms of betting, and that was another one that ended up burning me big time. Hated it to see that, but it was just like Macy Chiasson. I don't know, just one of those performances again where it's one of the head scratching ones from her where, I don't know, it just almost looked like she just didn't have a sense of urgency when she was on the ground. Like she wanted to play it safe and just kept trying to hold that guard and stuff. And it's just like,
Oh no, we lost the D-Rose again. He's frozen. Keeps happening to the old Mr. Rose tonight. In that case, until D-Rose gets back, I'll go ahead and I know you guys really don't care too much about Ketlen Vieira, Macy Chiasson, so we'll move on down to Zach Reese and Dusko Todorovic. I did pick Dusko to win that fight, and I personally did think, okay, so I see D-Rose's head kind of moving there.
We're back.
Yeah, so it looks like you're back.
If it keeps doing this, I might have to restart it, but I'll let you know.
Yeah, you're good, man. So we're just gonna move on down to Zach Reese, Dusko Todorovic. The fight ends up going to decision, which had to have been like plus 800, plus 1,000 to go to decision because under 1.5 was like minus 200, man. So it's like no one thought this fight was going to decision, and it did go to decision. Dude, Zach Reese is not a good fighter, man. It's just like how like I thought he lost that fight, dude. I'm going to be completely honest. And we had it for the pick champ. And I'm like, come on, give me this one. Give me this one. Don't give me a clean sweep. And they gave Zach Reese the fight. So give me your thoughts and opinions. How mad were you that it didn't go under? And did you think Zach Reese actually won that fight?
Yeah, funny, I actually had the same takeaway as you, is that I was like, man, Zachary Reese is just, man, it's just something about him. Like, I mean, I will give him
He
credit
gets
that
tired after the first round and is like, puts his hand in his shorts. Like, dude,
Yeah.
put your hands up.
Yeah, dude, you're just waiting for him to get his head absolutely taken off. So you just don't know. You're almost kind of holding your breath, waiting for it to happen as the fight goes on. Now, he did have a lot of good scrambles against Dusko in the first round. I thought Dusko really did a good job in terms of coming out, really putting the pressure on and creating a lot of the scrambles. But it was like, I think Dean Thomas had the perfect analysis going into the second round when they went to him. He was like, it looks like Zach Reese doesn't know what he wants to do. He doesn't know whether he wants to strike. He doesn't know whether he wants to grapple. He doesn't know whether he wants to wrestle or use jiu-jitsu. Like, he just looks like he doesn't know what he wants to do. He's got a good kick. I thought the second and third round, I just thought both of them were just pretty much just tired. And it was just more that came down to who landed the bigger, more effective shots. And I did think that Zach Reese, he's got a pretty good rear kick, man. That's one thing I will give him credit for. And he did land a couple of those to the body. Really ended up landing some big shots with those. A couple big punches, but for the most part, man, I thought he won round 2 and 3, but pretty uneventful fight.
Fair enough. And then prelims were Alan Nascimento, Jafel Fillo, dude. That was a back and forth scramble fest where Jafel Fillo had multiple chances to at least be winning in the fight, but he would just end up getting reversed, and Alan Nascimento ended up on top and ended up winning the decision there. Jordan Levitt, Kurt Holloway. I'm gonna let you talk about that one real quick.
Yeah, no, just because I was not expecting Jordan Levitt to come out and just absolutely blow away Kurt Holloway the way he did. I mean, I had round 3 decision. I mean, I had anticipated that Jordan Levitt was going to win, but just for him to go out there and, I mean, immediately get the fight down to the ground, what was it, within the first 10, 15 seconds?
10 seconds, yeah.
And then you can hear, Kurt Holloway's wife, who's one of his jiu-jitsu coaches, hey, roll, roll, you're safe, you're good. And then all of a sudden you just see that choke just lock in, and Jordan Levitt just locks that thing in. And, I knew Jordan Levitt was dangerous. For him to slice through Holloway like that. And Jordan Levitt's still pretty young too, man. He can, he can hit a run here to where I'm not going to say maybe contend for the title, but I think he can give a lot of guys problems. He's kind of like in his athletic prime right now, and I think he can give a lot of guys a good run for their money. Like, I'm talking good guys.
And he ain't even shaking his ass no more either.
Yeah. Yeah, and he took a hiatus from that as well. Yeah, I think again, not feeding into the good public sentiment of him not being gay with him twerking. So I mean, you gotta draw the line somewhere,
Indeed. So we'll move on down to the fantastic start to the card that I had, dude, because the first 2 fights of the card I called like spot on, dude. It was Balaji just pretty much beating the shit out of Michael Aswell. But Michael Aswell is going to be a problem for a lot of people down at 145, dude, because who's going to be able to get this dude out of there down at 145? So I'm interested to see where he goes from there, because Balaji was just thumping him, and he was just there, dude, and he ended up winning a round off of Balaji on all 3 judges' scorecards. Anything on that one, man?
Yeah, I honestly, I thought Aswell looked really good. As you said, he was taking some big shots, and he was landing some big shots of his own. Now, you can tell just from body frame alone that they were 2 different weight classes, but I did think that Aswell, he had landed a couple big shots himself, and I kept telling Amber, we were watching, and I said, I'm just waiting for Aswell to like land a big shot and all of a sudden hurt Balaji. It just because he was, Aswell was doing his thing, but you could see there in that third round, Aswell was just gassed, and Balaji was just walking him down, just landing those ferocious body shots. So you can definitely see the potential there for Balaji as well. So I'm curious to see how he can take a win like this with some good momentum and move it forward, because his boxing is clean, his body shots are clean, and I think Aswell as well. Go down to 145, where his original weight class is at. being able to, get a full camp, I'd like to see what he can do, man, because I think he's going to be fun. Because if he can eat shots like that at 155, man, I mean, that's like a Max Holloway, Tory level type chin there. We're talking about potentially.
Yeah, man. And then the opening fight of the night was Alice Ardell-Yan taking on Hayani Amanda Dos Santos, and I was high on Alice Ardell-Yan to win this fight via decision just because she's more of a dog fighter. She's more in your face, kind of gritty, not the most technical, but it's almost like she enjoys the fight. And then after the fight was over, she ended up winning the fight. And she tells, was it Michael Bisping or was it DC, that she enjoys getting punched in the face, so that she enjoys exciting fights. So I was like, hell yeah, let's go Alice Ardell-Yan. And I know Dave is a fan of her outside the octagon activities as well.
We know how Dave is with the socials on some of these fighters, and real locked in there. But no, I thought that was actually a good fight. I think did they end up getting fight of the night?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they got fight of the night. Did I think it was fight of the night worthy? No, not really. But I mean, it wasn't the best fight of the night. Yes, it was the crazy, ain't wildin'. But no, I did think it was a fun fight. Again, I had Brianna Dos Santos, so pretty disappointed there. But I hated that, because I had a bet on her, and I did agree with you watching that. Dos Santos would land a big left hook, and then almost just kind of stand there and was like, nice. And then it was just like just 3 more in the process. It's like, to stop watching your work, quit.
Yeah.
I know DC says it all the time. He says taking pictures. Quit taking pictures of your work, and get in, get out, or land that left hook, throw another combo, shoot for a takedown, something, but don't just stand there, because she was getting tagged after she was landing a big shot.
Yeah, like it was almost like she didn't know what to do next. She was like, wham, wham. Now what? Like, you didn't fall. Shit. It's like, now what do I do? And then she would just get popped up, because it's like she only had like a 2-punch combination. And it's like, if it's not knocking the chick down, then it's like she was just kind of like, shit, that's all I had. Now what do I do? And then she would just get fucking pressured and kind of fucking beat up. So shout out Alice Ardell-Yan. So that was the recap. UFC Vegas 107. We'll go ahead and move into the bean eating. And it ain't 1 this week. It ain't 2 this week. It's 3 this week, unfortunately. Clean sweep for D Rose. Our 3 different picks. Our 3 different picks this past weekend were Kurt Holloway versus Jordan Levitt, where I went Kurt Holloway, D Rose went Jordan Levitt. It was Dusko Todorovic versus Zach Reese, where I went Dusko Todorovic and D Rose went Zach Reese. And it was Ludovic Klein versus Matus Gamrot, where I went Ludovic Klein and D Rose went Matus Gamrot. So not 1, not 2, but 3. That's a clean sweep. I got to take this off so I can see. So this week, I clean sweeped 3 beans. So we'll go ahead and get the beans out. Sugar Shane O'Malley gets the bean boozled this week. So let me get our Feeding the Ducks pulled up.
Sugar Shane O'Malley. It's the bean bop. Don't stop. Yeah. Sugar Shane in the house. He's gonna eat some beans, so check it out.
Oh, it's the bean bop. Bean bop, bean bop, bean bop, bean bop. If you guys want to get your very own bean bop shirt, check out the GoldenOctagon.store. Shameless plug. What flavor is this? Hold on, let's see. It is probably going to be dead fish or strawberry banana smoothie.
Sugar Shane with the dead fish.
Get it out.
It
was dead fish.
Sugar Shane with the dead fish.
Oh,
Did it
I'm
taste like
crying.
straight shit?
My
Dang
tattoos are
it.
gonna start leaking.
Oh, I thought to throw up, go in the bag.
All
That shit
right,
was
that's
nasty
one.
as hell. Now I'm sad.
Oh god, it tastes bad.
Tastes
All right, here we go.
bad. Now man sad. Hey,
Oh, we got a blue.
lean by.
I'm gonna save that for last. I'm
Oh,
saving the blue.
boy.
I'm
No,
saving-
what?
All right,
What
I
are
like
we
the blue.
doing? Come on, you gotta go in order.
That's actually toothpaste. I'm actually just gonna eat it because I have a terrible, I have a terrible fish flavor in my mouth.
Man, you got the blue one. Those are good anyway.
Oh man, what was that? Rotten egg or
Green
buttered
pop.
popcorn? God damn it, dude! Neither one of these are
Don't
good.
stop. You're gonna eat the butter popcorn.
Or rotten egg. Ugh. God damn it, dude! I hate this fucking game.
Everybody loves this egg. Get a rotten egg.
It just tastes like butter, dude. like you like the movie popcorn, just butter. like
That's
not,
what I was about to say. It's not.
it ain't terrible. It ain't. I'll eat
It's
it.
not that.
It ain't as bad as rotten egg.
It's supposed to be the good alternate, and it's not. Like it's actually like yeah, it's not great.
Well, at least I'm not gonna throw up, so that's good. Hey, I got 2 bad beans, but one of them was toothpaste. I'll take that. I'll take that. For getting clean sweeped, only throwing up one time.
Man,
Fair. Because
yeah, that
fucking D
I
Rose
saw
gets
the-
no bad beans.
I saw the stream. Come
It's
from
bad.
that.
It tasted so bad, dude. I don't even like fresh fucking seafood. I don't want a dead fish. You know, that's like the worst thing. Anyway, let's see what you guys got to say before we move on to the next subject. I'm not sure which one to click on. Let's see. Plastic bag fixing to get ruined here in a second. Indeed. That shot out. It tasted bad, Dave. I didn't even want that in my mouth. What's the last rap album you guys listened to start to finish? Oh, probably J. Cole's one. Like when it fucking came out, I was like, let me see what J. Cole's got to say. But then I fucking did probably listen to Kendrick's when it came out, though. So probably that one.
Yeah, probably probably one of those. I'd say. I listened to Big X Plug here recently too.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. As far as the last one, yeah. One of
like
those.
a whole album for like me, like every single song, it's tough because if it gets like 10 seconds in a song and I'm just not feeling it, I just kind of click. I just kind of click next. I don't really like the. I'm not really trying to do that.
And now I have been listening to it was Logic Vinyl Days. I've been listening to that album a lot. I might have technically that might have been the last one that I listened to from front to back because that's a really dope album. DJ Premier, one of the best DJs, put on a lot of beats for that album, and Logic went in on a lot of those songs, man. So yeah, that's a really good album.
All right, D Rose, Logic fan, didn't know that. I would not consider myself a good Logic fan.
When he was doing the commercial, the Hotline song, when he's doing those, felt a little too commercially for me. But when he's doing like his boom bap rap stuff, is when I like Logic the best.
Nice, Dirty Regs fan of 36 Chambers. All right, so with that being said, let's get into our UFC news and fight announcements. And D Rose, a lot has happened this week since we've been gone. So first one that's officially announced. I know a lot of people said that they weren't this fight wasn't happening. That was BS. It wasn't true. I'm like, dude, I've seen it more than a few places now. It's official. Petr Yan versus Marcus McGee, UFC Abu Dhabi, July 26th, man. Now that it's official, what's your thoughts on the matchmaking?
I'm
What the
not
hell's
tripping,
happening?
but it's not on the screen, right?
Yeah, nah, that's my fault. I didn't
Yeah, no,
remove
you're fine.
I didn't
As,
remove the
as I'm not
thumbnail
my belt
earlier.
here, but no, I just wanted to make sure because I was like, wait, he did say Petr Yan and Marcus McGee because I still kept saying the same thing as well. Like, there's no way that fight is happening, right? But yeah, it seems to be true. But I mean, it's a big step up for Marcus McGee. But I mean, I personally think that Marcus McGee is good, and I always told you after that Gaston Bolaños fight that I never underestimate him like that again. But that's a big jump for Marcus McGee to go from Jonathan Martinez to Petr Yan. So yeah, I think Petr Yan is going to be a pretty significant favorite, and I would understand why. So
Fair enough. So we'll go ahead and move on to something new that we haven't talked about. Well, I guess we may have talked about this one, but this one also official now. For I believe UFC 319. This is going to what the hell? One says 318, one says 319. I don't know which one it is. 318. Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zellhuber, dude. This is a rough one for Michael Johnson because every fight we're always like, Michael Johnson's going to be winning every moment of the fight until he's not. This one, I just have a hard time seeing him be winning any of the moments of the fight either. What's your immediate thoughts here, man?
yeah, I think that I think for Michael Johnson, we have talked about this fight before, but I'll say that Michael Johnson has looked a little bit better as of late. I think he's on a 2-fight winning streak now, and of course had that big knockout over Ottoman Azaitar in his last fight, so he's looked good as of late. And Zellhuber coming off of that big, what a lot of people thought was a fight of the year, last year with Esteban Ribovic. I'm not going to say he got exposed a little bit in that fight, but I mean, there are ways to where, he was a pretty hyped prospect coming in, and that, he's lost a couple of UFC fights already. Not saying that he can't bounce back, but we have seen some of his weaknesses. And I do think that Michael Johnson can take advantage of that, but it should be a good fight because I do think that Zellhuber, the quicker guy, I think he's going to be a little bit more mindful coming off of that loss against Ribovic, but I think that should be still a fun fight.
I agree. Should be fun, but I would have to go Daniel Zellhuber winning that fight. And Anton wants to know, if you were a fighter, would you fight till you're 40 like Michael Johnson? Hopefully, I would have made enough to stop.
Yeah, I would hope that I would make enough, but I think at the same time, like, it's so hard because those guys have been fighters for so long. It's like, what else do I know other than this? And if I can fight in the number one organization in the world right now, still be able to make pretty decent money, why not? Why not do it if I still can?
Yeah. I agree. We got some Peyton Talbot news. Breaking news. Peyton Talbot is expecting to fight on UFC 317. So that's International Fight Week. The Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira card, dude. I guess, who do you think's a good opponent for Peyton Talbot since he kind of got set back against Hani Barcelos in his last one, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the tough part is that, I think bantamweight's kind of loaded right now. So I think it would be kind of hard to, I'm not going to say give him a bounce back fight, but it's going to be hard to give him a winnable fight and not be a significant step back. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I maybe had to look at like a breakdown of the whole division just to see. I'm trying to think of like a Ronnie Yaya type, maybe, somebody like that, and maybe can kind of get his swagger back a little bit. But yeah, I think somebody maybe like that. If I know Ronnie Yaya is not around anymore, but somebody of that ilk.
Shit, they might bring him back for her. You never know.
Hey, if the payday's big enough, maybe.
Yeah. All right, Deros. They have officially moved UFC Noche from Guadalajara because we talked about it last week about the the venue not being done yet. So they moved UFC Noche to San Antonio, Texas. So that's going to be September 13th, and it's no longer going to be a pay-per-view. It's going to be a fight night. The thing is, I have now seen Diego Lopez and Jean Silva scheduled for the UFC 317 card, the Louisiana card, I believe, or fucking whichever one that one is. What's your thoughts on this? Because if they do that, they really dropped the ball here, yeah? Between having Yair versus Diego main event UFC Noche here?
Yeah, I think so. The big thing, for them dropping it from a pay per view to just the regular TV card, frees up the rumor from Volk and Yair. So I think that was a big kind of sigh of relief for everybody. And I think I think truthfully, you might not even need the Diego versus Yair fight, but I think you could still put Yair on the card. I think you could match him up against anybody, just because I think Yair still needs a couple wins. Let's be honest, if he wants to try to get back into any type of title contention, yeah, I still think he needs a couple wins. I think you could maybe still put like a Brandon Moreno on that card to make it a big event. It's supposed to be UFC Noche. I know it got moved to San Antonio. I don't know if San Antonio necessarily screams Hispanic culture by any means, but
Where the Alamo is. Remember the Alamo, D-Rose.
yes, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just think of the Spurs too much when I think about San Antonio, and not necessarily the big Hispanic culture out there. But hey, again, frees up a lot of other fights that we thought were going to happen that we didn't want to see. And I mean, for Diego Lopez, if the fight does happen with Gene Silver or not, we'll see. But I don't think, even if he is booked against Gene Silva, I still think for the card it could be matched up pretty well from top to bottom. Maybe even have like a Raul Rosas on there as well. A bunch of guys like that. So I still think the card could be well represented.
If they don't put Diego Lopez versus Yair Rodriguez, they are missing a huge fight that all the fans want to see. And Lush saying he's going to go see Diego Lopez next week at Anthony Pettis fight night. Hope you have fun, Lush. Hope you're able to get a picture, autograph, all that good shit, brother. Yeah, so with that being said, let's see what else we got. Yeah, the rumor was the Macy Barber had a seizure. We kind of talked about that, though. Here's some more news we got. We've got Alex Perez versus Steve Erceg set for UFC Vegas 109 on August 9th in the Apex. What's your thoughts on this, man? I'm assuming this is going to be headlining there, right?
Yeah, I would have to imagine, or I mean, I would think at least, if not headlining, maybe co-main or something like that. But I think both fighters are well capable of headlining a card, and I think this is a well-matched fight. Alex Perez is someone who I think me and you have both kind of consistently doubted time and time again, but he's tending to put on good performances in his last few appearances. And Steve Erceg, he looked good in moments in that Moreno fight, but I do think for the most part that Moreno, won that fight pretty comfortably. And obviously the Pantoja fight, look, Steve Erceg, he had moments in that fight, probably could have won it maybe in that 5th round without that takedown attempt. And then he got slept by Kai Kara France as well. So Steve Erceg's on the 3-fight losing streak. So he really needs this fight back as far as trying to get that swagger back. And Alex Perez coming off that loss to was it Tatsuro Taira? Coming off the loss against him, especially with that nasty knee injury, he's looking to get back as well. So I think it's a well-matched fight for two guys to kind of see who's coming and who's going.
Yeah. Cool. Dave said he might go see Alex Pereira like this weekend and, try to convince him to give him a leg kick. So hopefully you can walk next week, Dave.
You gotta record it if you do.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about UFC sending talent scouts multiple parts of the world? to give out Dana White Contender Series contracts. I think there's enough low level promotions where they really don't have to do that. They can just kind of watch and see what's happening and then offer a contract from there, because it's almost, every fighter that's fighting MMA wants to eventually make it to the UFC. So it's not like they're going to say no for the most part. So with that being said, let's move on to the next one. We got Dan 50K Ige going to be taking on Pitbull Patricio Pitbull Ferreira. I believe that's his name. That's set for UFC 318, July 19th, the New Orleans card as well. What's your thoughts on this one, man?
Now this one's a pretty well matched fight. I think both fighters kind of contain a little bit of the same skill set for the most part. Big power, good boxing. I think you can maybe make the argument that Pitbull's jiu-jitsu is maybe a little bit better. I think he might be a little bit of the better wrestler, but I think for the power advantage, even though Pitbull's got good power himself, it's definitely going to go to Dan Ige. We know the power that Dan Ige packs with each punch, man. And he's he's no slouch. I think this is for Dan Ige, good fight for him to, try to get a little bit of momentum going, coming off the Sean Woodson knockout. And if he gets this fight, that'll be 2 in a row for him. And for Pitbull, I think it's a good bounce back fight for him coming off the loss of Yair. Dan Ige is a good fight and a good test to kind of for that measuring bar to see really where you're at in the featherweight division. So I do think that this is a well-matched fight, and it should be a good fight.
Fair enough. Is Steve Erceg still main event worthy? For the Apex, yeah. I mean, I doubt he's going to main event in Australia where he's from.
Yeah, and as you said, if he's headlining an Apex card, I mean, there's a lot of people who could headline an Apex card, and I've seen a lot of people headline Apex cards, and I would rather see Steve Erceg main event those. So,
yeah, man. So probably the biggest news of the week that we have, dude,
this is
none other than Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell, and he's going to be fighting Saeed Nurmagomedov. And you're like, okay, cool, but then you think about it for a second. You're like, wait a minute, these fighters are in 2 different weight classes. Saeed, I think, has fought. No, that's Tagir. He's fought at 125. Saeed has always fought at 135, and Bryce Mitchell, has fought at 145. So you're like, okay, who's moving here? And then you look a little bit closer and you find out that Thug Nasty Bryce Mitchell is going to move down, debut at bantamweight against Saeed Nurmagomedov on July 26th. That is the Abu Dhabi card. Wow. I feel like this is a great move for Bryce Mitchell, if I'm going to be honest. He should have a big size advantage at a lot of dudes down at 135, and his grappling should give a lot of people problems down at 135, because if you just think about it, you just go up and down the division, who's really, the top grapplers? It's like Merab. I guess Aljo's not really there anymore, and there's not really too many grappling heavy 135ers in the top of the division. Maybe once you start to get down a little bit lower, you like run into like Ricky Simone, people like that. But at the top, dude, I think he could have a problem for a lot of people down at 135. So I guess give me your opinions on the move itself, and then give me your opinions on the fight.
Yeah, I think that, you could look at Bryce Mitchell up at 145, and you can say that maybe he wasn't the biggest 145er. And I think you could really see with him fighting John Silva. John Silva just looked like he was in a different weight class, just in terms of the strength. Like, you could see that, Bryce Mitchell could barely even hold on to like a grip. Like, he was getting thrown around pretty easily for the most part. And, maybe going down to 135, he's always been a pretty fast fighter for the most part. He's got quick hands. I think that was one of the things that helped him win that Edson Barboza fight, was that, his hands were a lot quicker than what I think a lot of people anticipated. And, as you said, that grappling heavy style, hey, that's something that I think can give a lot of 135 a problem in. And I think this is a good matchup for him. I will say that, just because I think that Saeed, he starts to fight well, but he does tend to tend to wilt there as the fight goes. So I am a fan of Saeed at the end of the day. He is a good fighter, but he does have his limits. And I think a big thing is his cardio. And I think that's one thing that Bryce Mitchell has never lacked in. So I think it's a really good matchup, man. It's a good fight, and I'm interested to see what Mitchell could do at 135.
Yeah, man. Do you think they're really trying to get him out of here? Who? Bryce Mitchell? Well, I don't think so.
I don't think anybody cares about the. I mean, he got absolutely dog walked by John Silva, no pun intended. So I as far as getting rid of him or whatever, as Dana said, hey, you get to watch him get his ass kicked if that's what you prefer. But I don't think it really makes a difference either way, to be honest.
Yeah, man. What's wild is, John Silva just sending good fighters to whole different divisions, dude. That's Charles Jourdain and Bryce Mitchell. Now that he's like, get out of this division.
That's a good point. They're we're actually way too small to fight these guys.
Yeah. And the news that came out today, the biggest news that came out today, man, is the return of Soulless Chris Moutinho. And he is fighting none other than the machine, Malcolm Wellmaker. You guys don't remember Malcolm Wellmaker? Just look back. Was it last pay-per-view when he absolutely snoozed Cameron Simon with just a step back nasty counter and just basically killed Cameron Simon. Just Cameron Simon. He's just getting mollywopped over and over again now. On the other hand, Chris Moutinho, we've seen him 2 fights in the UFC, I believe. We've seen him, get pieced up all 3 rounds against Sean O'Malley. And then we saw him fight, I think, Guido Canetti that stopped him standing up in the first round, just landing just straight after straight right on dude's face. But we haven't seen him go down, really. Do we see him go down? Not this week, but next weekend in Atlanta, dude, when Malcolm Wellmaker puts one of those bombs on him, dude.
Yes, I will say that because we know what Chris Moutinho is brought in here to be. He's brought in here to be a punching bag. I'm sorry. Let's just call it what it is. And Malcolm Wellmaker, I'm sorry, I think he's going to hurt Moutinho. I think he's going to hurt him early. So yeah.
All right. We got Dave saying Malcolm Wellmaker absolutely going to slump this dude. Probably the crowd is going to erupt when he gets the KO. Probably will. That is a Atlanta native, Malcolm Wellmaker there. So with that being said, that's all the news that I have, D Rose. You got anything that we didn't cover, man?
No, that's pretty much everything that I had seen as well.
All right, so got everything like that out of the way. So let's move on to the fun part of the show. We got UFC 316. Merab Dvalishvili taking on Sean O'Malley 2. We're going to give you our predictions, our preview, and our picks. Let you know if we're going to be betting anything on the card. So let me share my screen, and we will go ahead and get into it. So I believe this one is the one that I need to share. Got 2 pulled up here. Yep, perfect. Rare beauty. Only at Sephora. Get off my fucking screen. Anyway, like we're on Tapology. Why are you advertising Sephora? It's just like I could understand if you were like whiskey brand or like cigarettes or Zins, but you're like Sephora of all things. It just doesn't make any sense. Tapology. Anyway. Let's get into it. This upcoming weekend, we've got UFC 316. Merab Dvalishvili taking on Sean O'Malley, number 2. The prelims are going to start at 8 p.m. East Coast time. So we got a late one, boys and girls. It's going to be taking place at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. So if you're walking to the arena, stay safe. I'm sure Dave will let you know some of the things that, to watch out for along the way. Anyway, we got 13 fights to break down, headlined by Merab Dvalishvili taking on Sugar Sean O'Malley in the co-main event. 5 rounds as well for the bantamweight title. On the women's side, we've got the Venezuelan vixen, Juliana Pena, taking on Kayla Harrison. In the featured fight of the night, we have Kelvin KG Gaslam taking on Body Bags Joe Pfeiffer. We've got a fun one here as Mario Bautista takes on UFC newcomer Patchy Mix. We've got Vicente Luque taking on the Trailblazer Kevin Holland. We've got Bruno Silva, not the one that looks like D Rose, but the one that fights at 125, and he's going to be taking on Fearless Josh Van. We've got Azamat Mirzakhanov taking on Brendanson Haberio. We've got Sergey the Polar Bear or the Vampire Spivak Nosferatu going to be taking on Salsa Boy Waldo Cortez Acosta. We've got Chaos Williams going to be taking on Andreas Gustafsson that was going to fight last week against Officer Trevin Giles. So, rebooked for this week. We also have Ariane Lipsky da Silva now. Looks like she added the Lipsky back to her name. She's going to be taking on, or she used to be the Queen of Violence. I don't know if she's the Queen of Violence anymore. But this weekend, she might be the Queen of Violently getting knocked out as she's going to be taking on the Joker, Tong Wang. Anyway, we got Ju Sung Yu taking on Jekka Saragi. That's going to be a fun one. I'm excited for that one. We've got Quinlan Saukild taking on Yanao Ashmos. That's going to be a fun one as well. And the opening fight of the card, we've got Markel Medeiros taking on Mark Chinosik. D-Rose. So, can you grade the card as a whole? We got 13 of them. You know, A to F rating. You can give pluses and minuses. Just let me know what you think.
I mean, again, you know, we talked about it. Is it a fine card? Yes, it's fine. But I and maybe it's just me. I know Sean's your guy. I'm just not as pumped up for this rematch. I think maybe it's just because I don't know. I would like to have seen Sean maybe have just one fight in between, just because you know I'd like to see where he's going to be at. Just because it's an all or nothing moment for him. You know, because if he loses this fight this weekend, you know, I mean, what's he going to do? Go to 145? I mean, I don't know. It's just a weird rematch in general, and you know, I'm not super pumped for the co-main event either. So I'll say, I mean, B minus. If I gotta say B minus.
Okay.
I don't want to say C plus. I'll say B minus.
I thought you were going to go C, D Rose. I mean, me personally, I would give it B plus. Like, I wouldn't say it's the best card in the world. There's a lot of, you know, fights on here that I'm like, okay. There's a lot of big favorites on this card that I don't really agree with at all. But at the same time, you still kind of got to pick them to win because they're most likely going to win. So I get it. It ain't the best card in the world, so we're not too far off. D Rose going B minus. I'll go B plus. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get to the first fight of the night. We've got Markel Medeiros taking on Mark Chinosik. Markel Medeiros 10-1 overall out of his last 5 fights. He is 5-0. 28 years old, 5'10" and a 69.5-inch reach. Fights out of Factory X Muay Thai. Mark Chinosik taking this fight on late notice. He is 8-0. He did fight 2 months ago at Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship. I believe that's what it's called. He is 29 years old, 5'8". We don't have a reach for him, but Markel Medeiros was, I think, going to fight Balagioki last week, dude, and he pulled out. And then all of a sudden, he's fine to fight this week. It just didn't make the most sense in the world, dude. So, or maybe it was against someone else, but it was like last week, dude. So I don't really understand why he's fighting this week.
Yeah, I believe it was Balagioki. Yeah, because I was going to pick him against Balagioki.
Yeah, man. So it's just kind of odd. Maybe he just realized that Balagioki is a little bit too tough of a test for him right now. He's still young, 10-0. Give me Markel Medeiros to win this fight via decision. You know, just doing leg kick, jab, run around, things like that. Which way you going here, man?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird fight. As you said, the way that Marco Medeiros got kind of mashed up here, you know, it seemed like he still ended up having a full camp for the most part. And you know, I'm not as familiar with gosh, I just forgot Chowinski. Chowinski, is that how you say it? Not as familiar with him. You know, from what I've seen, it looks like he's got a I guess the grappling is probably, wrestling is probably his strongest trait, but I think Medeiros has got pretty decent takedown defense, and I think he showed that in the Austin Hubbard fight, and he's got pretty good boxing as well. So I'm going to go Medeiros by decision here.
All right, looks like me and you are both in the same. The chat, Lush is going Mark the Shark, and Dave riding with Mark the Shark as well. Odds for this fight, I don't think we got them. Yeah, we do. Currently, Markel Medeiros minus 205, the favorite. Mark the Shark Chinosik is plus 170, the dog. So I'm going Markel Medeiros. D-Rose going Markel Medeiros via decision. We are both on Markel Medeiros via decision. Moving on, we have Quinlan Salkild taking on Red Fox Yanao Ashmos. Quinlan Salkild is 8-1. We saw him snooze Anshul Jubilee 3 months ago, and then 8 months ago he was on the Contender Series. He is 25 years old, 6 foot in a 75-inch reach as where Yanao Ashmos is 8-1 overall. He does have one loss. It is to Chris Duncan a year and 10 months ago. He is 30 years old, 5'9", and a 68-inch reach. Currently, odds for the fight, minus 575 for Quinlan Salkild. Ashmos plus 425. Over under here is 2.5. The over 2.5 minus 180. The under 2.5 is plus 140. Yeah, dude, I'm picking Quinlan Salkild to win this fight, but should he be a minus 575 favorite? I don't think so, dude. He was like minus 400 against Anshul Jubilee, and then they're gonna make him damn near 600 favorite now against a way better fighter in Ashmos. It could just be a lot closer than what I would like it to be, but I'm gonna pick Quinlan Salkild to win this fight via decision. Just stuff to take down, just kind of box up Ashmos. But Ashmos is tough as all hell, and he ain't going down easy. So Quinlan Salkild via decision for me. How about you, D-Rose?
Yeah, I think for the betting line for this fight is just absolutely crazy for Quinlan Salkild. I mean, I know people are excited about him. He had the knockout against Jubilee in his last fight, but to be fair, if it's it was Anshul Jubilee. The guy who got barked at, who basically got knocked out by Barks against Mike Breeden.
And then Mike Breeden got cut after that. They're like, "Hey, you're not allowed to use that technique. You're cut out of the UFC, pal."
Yeah. He got knocked out by Barks. Just imagine that, like someone just barking at the guy and he just falls over. Like that's pretty much what it was for Anshul Jubilee. So I'm not going to put too much weight on that. I mean, Ashmos, I think he's got pretty good experience in the UFC right now already against pretty good guys.
Trevor
I mean, he obviously got that big knockout.
That's my guy.
Trevor Peake, Chris Duncan, and he had the big knockout against Sam Patterson, who, let's be honest, I mean, Sam Patterson, he made Danny Barlow look little at 170. So the fact that Sam Patterson even made 155 is just amazing to begin with. But man, I'm not gonna lie. I'm taking a shot on the dog here, man. I think Ashmos has. I think they're both, pretty well rounded. Quinlan Salkild has the better boxing. I think, Ashmos is going to be a little bit more sloppy with the stand up, but he's got good striking and he's got good power. He's tough, good wrestling. I think, Ashmos, I think he definitely has a shot to get it done here. Both guys have the same amount of experience level in terms of number of fights. But I think, Ashmos has had some pretty good UFC experience as well. So I'm riding with the dog here. You're on mute.
Yes, D-Rose riding anal ass moist this week, says Dave. Our first different pick of the night. I am on Quinlan Salkild, D-Rose on Ashmos. Moving on, dude. We've got a fun one, dude. And, it's fun when we have two Asian fighters because, we know that neither one of them are the best fighter in the world. The thing is, we've seen Jekasaragi in the UFC, and we've seen him get fucking crushed multiple times. One against Anshul Jubilee, of all fighters. He did beat Lucas Alexander, and then got submitted by fucking Weston Wilson, dude. How bad is Jekasaragi? it's just one of those fighters where I'm not going to act like I'm going to beat up a UFC fighter, but if there was one fighter currently in the organization that I had to take my chances against, I'd probably choose Jekasaragi. How about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, the Angel Jubilee says it all, really.
With that being said, Ju Sang Yu, we did see him on the, what is it called? The Rose, what's the shit called that Dana White has with
Contender
Dean
Series?
Thomas? No.
Looking for a fight?
Yeah, looking for a fight. He was also on the same episode the other week that Mateus Camillo was on, fighting the one fucking like the undefeated Tajikistan dude. So Ju Sang Yu was on there. The fight started off, dude, and he fucking landed a spinning back kick to the body and fucking dropped the dude with the first like strike that he like threw. It was Masuto Kawana. Yeah. So anyway, 5 months ago, he did knock this dude out. He's a big guy. That's what I've noticed, dude. And usually with like Asians, they're not really too tall, really not too muscular or anything like that. For being 145, dude, this dude's 5'9". It says he's 5'9", dude, but he's real tall. Jack too, and I think he knocks the fuck out of Jekasaragi. Give me Ju Sang Yu to knock out Jekasaragi in the first round. Which way are you going here, man?
Yeah. I think Ju Sang Yu, I think that, again, I'm not going to act like I'm super familiar with this game, but I mean, I do know that, just from the film study I did from just a little bit, he's got pretty good boxing, but I think he could really dominate with the wrestling here. And Jekasaragi, he has been served up on a platter to be devoured many a times, and I think this is another one here. So I think Ju Sang Yu. It's hard trying to actually say that name without. It looks like I want to say Joe for some reason. I have no idea why. But Ju Sang Yu, yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to say like a ground and pound stoppage, but let's go knockout for Ju Sang Yu. Let's go round 2.
Fair enough. Odds for the fight plus 380 Jekasaragi and minus 500 for Ju Sang Yu, dude. Over under is 1.5 here. The over 1.5 is minus 130. The under 1.5 is plus 100. It's wild to me that Quinlan Salkiel is a bigger favorite than Ju Sang Yu is over this fucking.
That is crazy.
Dude, that's wild to me. Anyway, moving on. We do have Ariane, the queen of violence, Lipski, the Silva. Now, I don't know what she is anymore. She's going to be taking on the Joker, Tong Wang. Make sure the Tong is pronounced correctly there. Anyway, Ariane Lipski, 17-10 overall out of her last 5 fights, 3 wins, 2 losses, but she's lost her last 2. She got dorsed by Jasmine Jasudavicius 6 months ago, and then lost to Karina Silva via decision a year and a month ago. She is 31 years old, 5'6", 67-inch reach, while the Joker, Tong Wang, I already fucked it up, is 7-1 overall. Her only loss is to Gabriela Fernandez when she got head kicked and then choked out. She is 33 years old, 5'6", and a 66.5-inch reach. Yeah, man. For me, this, I want to say, is going to be a close competitive fight, dude. But I feel like anytime anyone puts the pressure on Ariane Lipski, she has no answer, dude. And I just feel like she's just going to be at the end of Tong Wang's range the entire fight. She might knock her out, but to be honest, after watching her last fight, she might just easily cruise to decision by just, as Jack Della Maddalena's coach says, by tagging the cunt. Just over and over, dude. She might just keep popping her and end up winning this fight via decision. So I think that's the way I'm going to go. I'm going to go Tong Wang to win the fight via decision. I'm going to hope she knocks her out, but, not everyone is able to do what Priscilla Cachoeira did to the queen of violently getting knocked out. So odds for the fight, plus 410, Ariane Lipski, the dog, and Tong Wang is minus 550, the favorite. Dude, everyone's a minus 500 on this fucking card. Over, under, 2.5. Over, minus 145. Under is plus 114. I'm going to guess you're going to agree with me, D-Rose.
This card should be instead of UFC 316, UFC minus 500 for
right?
representing for all the favorites being minus 500 going into all these fights. And let's see if Dave is able to actually find the Ariane Lipski da Silva OnlyFans page, because I'm going to wait on him to do some research here, especially with that last comment he left there. Waiting to see if he can find the link there for us. Let us know.
I'm not paying for shit, Dave.
No, but I do think that, yeah, I agree with you, man. I think Ariane Lipski, da Silva, whichever she wants to go by, it's hard to tell at this point, but I do think that, she's had some talent. She's been pretty good in the UFC at points of times, but just hasn't seen just hasn't had the best of luck as of late. And I do think that for Wang Tong, for her, she's got a little bit of momentum right now. Obviously, she had the Gabriela Fernandez fight where she got clubbed and subbed and she got put out. There was no, it wasn't a bullcrap decision or anything like that. No, she got clubbed and she got subbed. She got worked. I think that was a humbling loss for her. And I know she was able to get back on the horse in her last fight and get the win. And I think that she's going to be a little bit more measured. I don't think she's going to look for a knockout. I think she's going to look to just try to put wins together right now. And I think that Da Silva is kind of the perfect opponent to kind of catch, as she's kind of on a bad streak here. I want to go Wang Tong by decision.
Fair enough. Me and Heroes on Wang Tong via decision. And Dave letting us know he don't pay for those booty hole pictures. All right, moving on. We've got Chaos, the Ox Fighter Williams taking on Andreas Bane Gustafsson. Fun one here, I guess. Chaos Williams, 15-4 overall. He is 31 years old, 6 foot, and a 77-inch reach. Fights out of Murcielago MMA in Detroit, Michigan. Stand up, Detroit. Anyway, Chaos Williams, out of his last 5 fights, won 3, lost 2. Beat Miguel Baeza, not too impressive. Lost to Randy Brown. Did beat Rolando Bedoya. Lost me some money there. He did beat Carlston Harris via knockout a year ago, and then lost to Gabriel Bonfim via submission. I think that's the first time he ever got finished, man. On the other hand, Andreas Gustafsson is 11-2 overall out of his last 5 fights, 4 wins, 1 loss. On the Contender Series, he did beat Pat Pitlick 9 months ago. He is 34 years old, 6 foot, and a 74-inch reach. Currently, odds for the fight are Chaos Williams minus 192, your favorite, and Andreas Gustafsson plus 160, your underdog. Over/under here is 1.5. The over 1.5 is minus 154. The under 1.5 is plus 120. Yeah, Andreas Gustafsson was going to fight Officer Trevin Giles last week that fell and hit his head while weight cutting, so he cannot fight. He could not fight, and then neither could Andreas Gustafsson. So he's moved to this week. But you saw on the little breakdown, Chaos Williams had about 4 or 5 different opponents for this card, but he has been training for this card for a few months now, dude. And to be honest, I truly understand the odds of minus 192 Chaos Williams, because Chaos Williams is a proven UFC fighter at this point, as where Andreas Gustafsson is a known brawler. And if you go in there and brawl with Chaos Williams, dude, I think he's going to end up putting you out, man. So with that being said, give me Chaos Williams to win this fight. Let's go second round knockout, because Andreas Gustafsson going to have a hard round 1, but after 2 weight cuts, 2 weeks in a row against legit UFC level competition, not sure he's able to last, man. So give me Chaos Williams round 2 knockout. Which way are you going here, man?
Yeah, I think this one's been a little bit difficult for me to call, because I think that as you said, both of these guys have basically been getting ready for a fight. Even though it's not the same opponent, Chaos Williams had a multitude of opponents, and Trevin Giles was supposed to be Gustafsson's last opponent. So I would say maybe a similar fight style there. Obviously, Chaos has the bigger power, than Trevin Giles does, but I would say that maybe Trevin Giles is the better, cleaner boxer overall. I think Gustafsson, as you said, he's a little bit of a brawler, but I do think technically, I would say he's probably the cleaner striker out of the two between Chaos and himself. I think as long as he doesn't, I think Chaos sometimes looks for that big shot a little bit too much, and I think they can get him caught up sometimes in certain fights. I'm going to take a shot on the dog here, man. I don't know what it is. I think Gustafsson's going to come out here with a point to prove. Going to prove that he belongs here in the UFC. Again, I think, Chaos Williams, he throws ones and twos. I can see Gustafsson putting, 4 or 5 punches together on combos. I think it'll be a closely contested fight. Both fighters take shots. Chaos Williams has a hell of a chin, so I don't see him getting knocked out by Gustafsson. But I think Gustafsson lands big enough shots to sway the judges in his favor and get the decision win.
Fair enough. So that's the second one we have picked differently on. I am on Chaos Williams round 2 knockout, and you say Andreas Gustafsson via decision.
Yes.
All right. Fair enough. We'll move on to the next one, where we have the toughest one that I have. Dude, I have been flip-flopping on this one all damn week, and I probably shouldn't bet on it. But how can I not at the odds? Like, at minus 142 or plus 120, like either way, it's probably some of the best odds on the entire card, no matter which way you pick here. Sergey Spivak currently a minus 142 favorite, as Waldo Cortez Acosta is plus 120, the dog. The over-under here is 2.5. The over 2.5 plus 120. The under 2.5 is minus 154. So Sergey, the polar bear, Nosferatu, the vampire, Spivak is 17-5 overall. He is 30 years old, 6'3" and a 78-inch reach, while Waldo Cortez, Salsa Boy Acosta, is 13-1 overall. He's 33 years old, 6'4" and a 78-inch reach. D-Rose, let's see if you can help me make up my decision. Why don't you break this one down to me? Break this one down for me and give me your pick.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I feel like you, man. I've been going back and forth with this one all week. I think that I can definitely see both avenues for both fighters to win. You look at Salsa Boy, we know what he's good at. He's pretty good at, landing the big power. He's got pretty good boxing. We all know him for being a former pitcher for the back in the Dominican Republic. And I believe he ended up getting like a minor league deal offer or a minor league offer or something like that. So I'm not quite sure, but he's a good athlete, man. Good power.
And he was kicked off for fighting his teammates.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I actually didn't know that, but and then so Sergey Spivak is a guy, with the wrestling, he's going to want to get the fight down to the ground. If there's one thing we know about Spivak, his striking is non-existent.
He hates garlic too.
Once he gets the fight down to the ground, all he's really trying to do is just avoid the garlic and just get down to the ground. Like that's really all like Spivak is trying to do. I will say that like once he gets the fight down to the ground is where he does become a problem, because he actually has really good like transitions and scrambles for a big guy. He can lock in awkward submissions in certain ways, and I definitely think he's got a chance there. I've been so back and forth with this fight, but I think the ultimate thing that comes down to break down this fight is that I think Salsa Boy's got the power to be able to hurt Spivak. And we have seen Spivak lose. It has been because he maybe gets a little reckless, goes for the takedown early, gets caught, and gets put out. He had a tough time taking Cyril Gahn down. So I'm going to imagine that Salsa Boy, this is something that he's going to be anticipating. He was able to stuff takedowns from guys like Andrei Arlovsky and stuff like that. This is Waldo Cortez Acosta's toughest challenge to date in the UFC. But I think he comes in. I think he lands a couple of big shots. And honestly, I think he might even end up getting Sergey Spivak out of there. I mean, I know, going from Ryan Spann to Spivak is a big jump. But I think a knockout is very capable for Waldo Cortez Acosta. Or honestly, I could see Cortez Acosta just jabbing him on the outside the whole time, because we know Sergey Spivak doesn't have good striking as well. But I think just for the fun of it. Let's go Salsa Boy by knockout, but let's go round 1 knockout. But I do think that, just in terms of the betting line, whoever anybody thinks will win, as you said, this is really the most value you can get on the money line for the whole card.
Yeah, man. Close fight. And as you said, as I said, I've been flipping back and forth on this one. I probably already have a couple of bets with both of these fighters already in there, so I'm good with it either way. But I think what I'm going to lean toward is the way that Sergey Spivak was able to pick up Marcin Tybura and just kind of throw him around. And Marcin's a big heavyweight, man. I don't think Waldo's any bigger than Marcin Tybura is. So that being said, I got to think that Sergey's able to just pick him up, put him down, and just ride out the entire fight, all 3 rounds. So I think I'm going to end up going Sergey Spivak via decision. But if Waldo won, I could see him knocking out Sergey, but I could also see him just jabbing him up all 3 rounds, Rose. So I don't hate your pick, but that'll be our 3rd different pick on the card. We're going to shoot for 5 this week. See if we can get 5. So moving on, we've got Azamat Murzakanov taking on Brendan Haberio. So this is Azamat's 2nd, 3rd fighters stepping in here. He was going to fight Johnny Walker, dude, and that fight is not taking place anymore. So in steps Brendan Haberio. So the professional Azamat Murzakanov is 14-0, undefeated. He is currently minus 625, the favorite. 36 years old, 5'10", and a 71.5-inch reach. While Brendan Haberio, 17-7 overall out of his last 5 fights. He has won 3 of them and lost 2. The 2 he lost was to Ming Yangzhang, big Chinaman, and then Magomed Gajiasulov via decision, which isn't the best look. But this one, Dair Nergaze, man, I'm pretty sure we all had Dair winning that fight, and Brendan Haberio kind of proved us all wrong in that fight. Anyway, he is 28 years old, 6'3", and an 81-inch reach. This is one of the ones where it's like, Azamat's probably going to win this fight, either late TKO or via decision, but at minus 625, what do you even do? So I'm going to Azamat via decision, man. Not the biggest guy at 205, so he doesn't wow me anywhere, but in like not the Kennedy fight, the Tafon Chukwi fight, dude, he was losing that entire fight until he hit that flying knee. And I think you may have picked like Tafon Chukwi in that fight, dude. But Azamat does end up winning that fight. But he hasn't fought much since. He did beat Brown Bear Devin Clark, which doesn't really say a lot. He did beat Dustin Jacoby via decision, but that was one that's like, if Dustin Jacoby, decides to not go for takedowns, he probably wins that fight. I don't know why Dustin Jacoby was going for takedowns in that fight. And then he did knock out Alonzo Minifield 9 months ago, which doesn't really say a whole lot, man. Azamat via decision for me, dude. But if he got the late knockout, it wouldn't surprise me too terribly much. Which way are you going here, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Oh shit! Is he frozen again? Oh shit, son. Sugar Matt O'Malley's gonna have to take over again.
No, we good.
There he is.
No, we good. Yeah, I do think that Murzakanov's got good boxing, man, good wrestling defense for the most part. I mean, I even remember him coming into the UFC initially from the Contender Series, and Dana was like, yeah, he's probably going to have to move down to 185. But I think that for Murzakanov, I think for him being a little bit smaller, he does seem to have a speed advantage. And I think Murzakonov's got a pretty big speed advantage, even though he is kind of undersized. He doesn't seem too overwhelmed in terms of the strength department, and he can implement a little bit of wrestling himself. And we saw where, in that Dustin Jacoby fight, as you said, Dustin Jacoby was going for takedowns. He was going for takedowns because he was getting hurt by Murzakanov. Like, Murzakanov hurt him multiple times, and I thought there in the 3rd round that Murzakanov was actually going to knock him out. So I do think that, man, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on tonight, Dave. We're gonna get this We gonna get this right though. We gonna get it right. But I think Murzakanov gets it done, man. And I think he ends up knocking out Brendan Ribeiro. I think, maybe I'm just not the biggest believer in Ribeiro, and he'll just keep proving me wrong. But I do think that Murzakonov's got good boxing, man. Clean, good wrestling, good ground and pound once he gets the fight down to the ground as well. So yeah, I think Murzakanov gets it done by knockout. I'm going to say round 2, a knockout for Murzakanov here.
All right. So me and D-Rose both on Azamat Murzakanov. Sugar Matt, undefeated record indeed. I also met, how many tattoos do you really have? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4. Unless I'm forgetting. But when you have tattoos, you forget you have them sometimes. You're like, oh shit, I forgot about that one. I think I have 4. Anyway, with that being said, we'll move on to the next one, where we have Bruno Silva, not the D Rose Bruno Silva, but the 125-pound Bruno Silva. And he's going to be taking on the fearless Joshua Van. D Rose, did you see Joshua Van get the embedded shine this week?
I will admit that I have not watched too much embedded this week. So
I believe the one that came out today, episode 3, Josh Van makes an appearance. Dude, I was like, oh shit, UFC pushing Josh Van. Yeah, dude.
Interesting.
Kind of interesting to see that. But let's get into the fight. We got Bruno Bulldog Silva. He is 14-6-2 overall. 2 draws. He is 35 years old, 5'4" and a 66-inch reach. He does fight at a fight ready and basically fights just like Henry Cejudo. Josh Van, on the other hand, is 13-2 overall out of his last 5 fights. 4 wins, 1 loss, owing to Charles Johnson in the 3rd round. Josh Van is 23 years old, 5'5" and a 65-inch reach. You know what Josh Van does. Stays active, throws mean body shots in your face. Kind of starts off a little bit slow, but Bruno Silva starts off the opposite. Starts off fast and kind of runs out of gas as the fight goes on, D-Rose. So I know we haven't seen it yet in the UFC. He has a few of them previous to the UFC, but I think this is finally the week that we see the Josh Van round 3 knockout after Bruno Silva is gassed and Josh Van just landed those body shots. Currently odds for the fight, -650 for Josh Van. Bruno Silva +470. Over under here is 2.5. The over 2.5 is -160. The under 2.5 +124. Dude, I love Josh Van, but -650 is crazy, dude. What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, no, if you're looking for a value on money line for any fighter this week, good luck. Unless you're picking an underdog, there's nothing there and there's nothing safe to play. Now I do think on this one, -6, -600 some odd, that's a lot. But I'm very confident in Josh Van. He's probably going to be my most confident pick this week, man. And I'm actually with you in terms of getting a late knockout. I do think that, his pressure, he's gotten a knockout in the UFC before. I believe it was against Felipe Buenez. It was like in his 2nd or 3rd UFC fight. I believe he got like a 2nd round ground and pound stoppage. So he is capable, but I think he's kind of like a rugged, raw guy. Like when you talk to him, like you could tell like he's from like the mean streets, and that, the streets kind of raised him to a certain extent. You can see that he's like a rough and rugged guy. But you don't take him to have like good fight IQ. But when you see him in the octagon, like, dude, he's actually really smart in terms of how he implements his game. Good boxing, good scrambling when he gets down to the ground. Pretty good takedown defense for the most part, man. He's a super smart fighter and fights through his coaches. And I do think that you've seen in the last couple of his fights, maybe he hasn't necessarily gone for that finish just yet. But I think it's just because he's been so measured. But I think Bruno Silva brings a fun and wild fight. He can get a little wild and, throw big combos and stuff as well. But I think he also leaves himself open. And I do think that Josh Van can get a knockout late. I'm actually with you in terms of round 3 knockout here for Josh Van.
Hell yeah. Me and D-Rose both on Josh Van, round 3 knockout. I'm interested to see where you go here, D-Rose, because I believe this is 2 guys you've been picking against recently, huh?
Yeah. No, very much so.
All right. So let's get into it. We got the silent assassin, Vicente Luque, 23-10-1 overall out of his last 5 fights, 3 losses, 2 wins. He did lose to Bilal via decision. He did get knocked out by Jeff Neal, which really was the worst because he had a brain bleed after that fight, brain hemorrhage, if you will. He did come back a year later, and beat Rafael dos Anjos via decision, but he just kind of wrestled him the whole fight, didn't really want to get hit at all. And then Joaquin Buckley just went out there and in Atlantic City, dude, I was excited for that fight, and it just looked like it wasn't the same Vicente Luque. And then big step down against Themba Gorimbo in his last fight. He went out there and cleaned up Themba Gorimbo early, like 30 seconds in the first round. So Vicente, 33 years old, 5'11", and a 76-inch reach, while the trailblazer, Kevin Holland, 27-13 overall out of his last 5 fights. Michael Page, he did lose that fight. That was at 170. That was a legit loss. He did win against Mikhail Olszejczuk up at 185. Don't really like him up at 185, but he still does it. He did lose to Roman Dolidze up at 185 again. I prefer him down at 170. Lost to Ranier de Ritter, 185 again. Came back down to 170. And it's just like, for someone that has fantastic grappling and control, Gunnar Nelson really didn't have the tools to hold Kevin Holland down. And and when it was on the feet, it wasn't even close. Kevin Holland was smoking Gunnar Nelson. Kevin Holland's 32 years old, 6'3", and an 81-inch reach, and we know what he does. So, D Rose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you break this one down, kind of make your pick. I feel like you already know which way I'm going here, but let's see if you pick with me or if you go against me here.
Yeah, this one I'll tell you. So this is another one that I've gone back and forth with. As you said, I've picked against both fighters notoriously in their last few fights, both for a multitude of reasons. You know, Vicente Luque more kind of like a health concern reason, and Kevin Holland I really think is for more of a motivational reason. You know, I think that Vicente Luque, a big thing with him is that after that brain bleed incident that he had with Jeff Neal. Very scary moment there. He looked okay in the RDA fight, but obviously he didn't look like himself. And then you see the Joaquin Buckley fight to where it almost just looked like he just didn't want to be there. Like it was such a weird performance. I picked Joaquin Buckley going into that fight, and it still felt weird after Joaquin Buckley got the win because it was just like, I don't know. It was just like Luque just absolutely melted. Him getting that win against Themba Gorimbo in his last fight did encourage me a little bit. And Kevin Holland, I really think a big thing for him is that, just staying consistent at 170. I think going up to 185 is, obviously he's had his fun run up there. But I think in terms of taking it more serious, in terms of having the best chance to win, I do think Kevin Holland's best division is at 170. In that last one against Gunnar Nelson, I picked Gunnar Nelson in that fight. I thought Gunnar Nelson was going to get the submission. And Kevin Holland was able to defend himself pretty well when he was to get taken down. And defended the takedowns pretty well from rounds 2 and 3 on. And even when he did get taken down, he got up pretty quick, or he was always offensive when he was on his back, throwing up, hammer fists and stuff like that. I think the big thing for me is that I think Kevin Holland, it's been my biggest criticism of him when he fights, is when he jumps into range. Like, he's a guy who has the range on guys, but he doesn't use it. What I think that does, I think it sets up Vicente Luque to get a takedown. I think you're going to see Vicente Luque be on a lot more of the offensive, but I think on the offensive for the takedowns. Him getting that signature choke against Themba Gorimbo in his last fight gives me a lot of confidence that I think he can do the same to Kevin Holland here, man. I think Vicente Luque gets the takedown here, and I think that he tries to set up Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland tried to maybe get up a little bit too quickly, and we know Vicente Luque's signature choke, and it's that Darce choke, man. He gets that arm locked in, and he snaps him down, and it's all but over. And I think Vicente Luque can get it done by doing it just like that. I think Kevin Holland tried to jump in, gets a little bit too reckless. Vicente Luque gets some sort of spinning takedown, gets him down to the ground, gets that Darce choke, man. I think Vicente Luque locks it in and gets the job done. I'm going to go Vicente Luque. I'm going to go round 1 submission.
Fair enough. We'll be split again here, D Rose. And it's only because you know how I feel down. You know how I feel about Kevin Holland down at 170. I think he's an elite fighter down at 170, dude. You may call me crazy, but look who the champion is, and he went to split decision with him. How long ago? Like, you got to think about that. Like, Kevin Holland is a good fighter, and down at 170, dude, he has to be disciplined. He has to make 170, which means he's going to be in shape. He's going to be training. He has to care. I think he knocks out Vicente Luque in the first round, dude. The length, the power on the punches, and just the way that Vicente Luque's been looking, dude, just not the best. Give me Kevin Holland round 1 knockout over Vicente Luque. Currently, odds for the fight, plus 220, the underdog for Vicente Luque. Kevin Holland, minus 270. The favorite over-under here is 1.5. The over 1.5 is minus 175. The under 1.5 is plus 135. Anyway, we got someone called You Absolutely Suck. You look just like Verna Janjarova, sending love from your mom's house. I don't know who he's talking about. You look like Verna, D Rose? I don't look like Verna. I don't think either one of us look like Verna. I think he's
if any of us can look like Dave's girlfriend, then maybe that's maybe that's a good thing for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think this guy's confused. You must be in the wrong stream. You must be in the wrong stream, my guy. Yeah. Good luck finding who you're looking for, though. Anyway, moving on. We've got Mario Bautista taking on No Love Patchy Mix. Oh, we got a phone here, D Rose. We got a UFC newcomer here. I know you're excited about this one. So let's get into it. Mario Bautista plus 154, the underdog. Patchy Mix minus 185, the favorite. Mario Bautista 15-2 overall out of his last 5 fights, 5-0. He is 31 years old, 5'9" and a 69-inch reach, while Patchy No Love Mix is 5-0 in his last 5 fights, 31 years old, 5'11" and a 71.5-inch reach. I'm going to let you talk about this one, man, because I feel like you have more Patchy Mix knowledge than me.
Yeah, so for me, I think this fight, I'm super surprised. I'm not going to lie. I'm super surprised that Patchy Mix is actually as big of a favorite as he is. Minus 200 from what I saw earlier in the day. And I honestly think that line is starting to climb a little bit as the week goes, because I think he was every bit of minus 180, minus 188, somewhere around there earlier in the week. So a lot of people are
That's about what it's at now. That's about what it's at. Minus 185 currently.
Yeah, it's kind of floated up and down a little bit. I looked at it earlier, and I know I saw it at minus 200 for Patchy Mix. So looks like a little bit of money's coming in on Mario Bautista. Mario Bautista, obviously, he had the bad stain from the Jose Aldo fight. A bunch of people don't like the way that fight went. And sure, did I like the way it went? No. Did I think Aldo won? Yes. But at the same time, hey, Aldo didn't do enough to get himself off the fence, and he ultimately did lose that fight. So I think a lot of people have a sour taste in their mouth from Mario Bautista. But Mario Bautista is a good fighter. I do think that, he's kind of got, let's just say, like a wrestle boxer type style. He can implement the wrestling. He's got pretty good boxing. He can throw some flying knees, some pretty good leg kicks every now and then. But, most of his offense is going to come from his boxing and his wrestling. I think that Patchy Mix, for me, his striking is not the best. He's got pretty good 1s and 2s for the most part. But one thing he is nasty about is when he gets in the clinch, he's nasty about throwing knees. His knees to the body are nasty. And honestly, just stepping in general, he's got very good step-in knees. Kind of reminds me of almost like Dan Hooker when he landed on Jim Miller back in the day. And, kind of landed those nasty just step-in knees. Patchy Mix is very capable of that, and he's got good striking as well. So I think that Patchy Mix, he can defend the takedowns. He's got very good jiu-jitsu. Kind of like that front choke, Darce choke. That's kind of one of his favorite chokes as well. And I think that man, I really do think that Patchy Mix gets the job done. I'm going to say by decision. I think that Patchy Mix isn't getting the job done. But Mario Bautista, he's going to provide a tough fight. So it's not going to be a pushover by any means. I think it might end up turning into a little bit of a grapple scramble type fest. But I think especially with Patchy Mix, He has obviously with Tatiana Suarez as well. They train a lot in the grappling and wrestling together. So I think Patchy Mix can put the wrestling together better. And I think his top control is much better than Mario Bautista as well. And obviously much more dangerous with submissions as well. So I'm going to go Patchy Mix, but I'm going to go by decision.
Yeah, for me, I've seen he has nasty submissions, but for me, it's over who? It's kind of like the.
Well, I will say the one guy, Magomedov, the guy that he did beat, Magomedov has a win over Peter Yan back in the day as well. He beat Sergio Pettis, former UFC fighter. He Rafion Stotts, who only had 1 or 2 losses before he ended up knocking him out the way he did. So it might be against guys who aren't as notable, but he does have some very good wins and very good finishes against good guys.
Sergio got cut from the UFC at 125. So that.
But he also beat
Kyoji
Horiguchi, who's jumping over to the UFC now.
Which also got cut from the UFC as well. Like, it's kind of like
he's coming back to the UFC.
Yeah, he was going to, but I'm not sure if he's still going to. That fight fell out between him and Brandon Moreno. That one already fucking fell out.
He's still in the UFC. His fight fell out, but he's still in the UFC.
Yeah, but I'm just not for. I'll tell you, for me, it's kind of like the Michael Chandler, kind of like the Pitbull. It's kind of like until I see him beat someone UFC level competition, I'm just going to step back. I'm going to hold my brakes. I want to pick Merab Dvalishvili to win this fight via decision. And I don't know if it's just me or if you guys felt it earlier. If you guys have seen was it on Embedded? I think it was on Embedded, but Patchy Mix just seemed like there's a difference in confidence and cockiness. And he came off to me as so cocky, dude. He was watching Mario Bautista tape, and he's like, see, if he does this to me, I'm going to submit him. I'm going to submit his jiu-jitsu coach, and then I'm going to submit his entire team. That's why I was like, all right, dude, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you better calm the fuck down. So part of me kind of hopes that he's just coming here and just gets humbled. So I'm going Mario Bautista to win this fight via decision. Mario is the bantamweight Paul Craig on terms of getting in your face before the fight. Fight like a crotch munch. Former Mexican. Part-time Mexican. It was on Embedded. Yeah, episode 1 of Embedded. I just wasn't a huge fan of that. So me and D-Rose will be split here. D-Rose on Patchy Mix. I'm on Mario Bautista via decision. But it's kind of just like a wait and see for me. He could be the best bantamweight on earth. I need to see him fight someone in the UFC first. Moving on, we've got Kelvin Gastelum, KG, taking on Body Bags, Joe Pyfer. Kelvin Gastelum, 19-9 overall. Out of his last 5 fights, 2 wins, 3 losses, 33 years old, 5'9", and a 71-inch reach. While Body Bags, Joe Pyfer, 13-3 overall, 28 years old, 6'2", and a 75-inch reach. Currently, odds for the fight plus 300 for Kelvin Gastelum. The underdog, Joe Pyfer, minus 380, the favorite. Over under is 2.5. The over is minus 125. The under is minus 105. This was a fight rescheduled from UFC Mexico a few weeks ago. I did pick Kelvin Gastelum to win that fight because it was in Mexico City at elevation, and I don't think Joe Pyfer has the best cardio. Now this fight is in New Jersey, basically Joe Pyfer's hometown. Rebooked. They've had more time to train and do all that. I think Joe Pyfer probably comes out there, maybe plays around with Kelvin Gastelum in the first, on the feet, has a fucking striking match. But I think as soon as round 2 starts, I think Joe Pyfer ducks down, gets a takedown, and we see like a head and arm triangle round 2 submission for Joe Pyfer. Which way are you going here, man?
Yeah, I think honestly, my opinion on this fight really hasn't changed too much from the first announcement to now. I still think that Joe Pyfer is going to be the much bigger, much more explosive guy. I think Kelvin Gastelum can match him power for power. So I'm not going to say that Joe Pyfer is going to be the more powerful guy when it comes to the hands, but I do think that Kelvin Gastelum, good boxer, he can obviously land a big shot, but I think, somebody like Joe Pyfer can play with the range a little bit better, kind of, dart in and out. I think that this fight can potentially be a little bit slower than what the matchup would maybe suggest, that this fight could be a barn burner. I think this fight could be a little bit slower. I think it ends up going to a decision. I just think that Joe Pyfer ends up just putting on more damage, in order to add up on the scorecards. I don't know if Joe Pyfer's really got all the, I'm not saying that he can't wrestle, but it's almost like, to me, he seems like it's almost kind of like against him to a certain extent to go through the wrestling, unless it's like by any means necessary, because I just take him as more like that he likes to go out there and try to get the knockout. So I'm going to go Joe Pyfer. I think he tries to knock out KG, but he can't, and I think he ends up getting it done by decision.
Fair enough. Me and D-Rose both on body bags. Joe Pyfer, I think he submits Kelvin Gastelum second round. D-Rose thinks he wins via decision. Championship fight time, D-Rose. We have the Venezuelan Vixen, Pena Power, Juliana Pena. She'll stick that jab on you. She's 11-5 overall. She is your current bantamweight champion. Out of her last 5 fights, 3 wins, 2 losses. Only 2 losses, or I guess losses, were Jermaine Durandamy almost 5 years ago, and then did lose to Amanda Nunes via decision almost 3 years ago. Juliana Pena is 35 years old, 5'6" and a 69-inch reach, while Kayla Harrison, 18-1 overall. Only loss ever is to Larissa Pacheco inside the UFC. That's basically a man now with all the steroid that's been put in her. Anyway, she's 34 years old, 5'8", and a 66-inch reach. Trains at American Top Team, as we all know. And yeah, man, is Kayla Harrison even going to make 135 pounds, dude? Is this fight even going to happen?
I mean, I doubt they'd schedule it if they had doubts, but who knows?
I just, dude, she's never made that. She weighed 136 in her 2 in the UFC. That last pound could be the death of her, and I just don't know how much it's going to affect her. And we know that ain't nothing to mess around with, man. That ain't nothing to mess around with, man. So I'm going to go on the dog here, dude. Juliana Pena is plus 525, the underdog. Kayla Harrison's minus 750, the favorite. Over under here is 4.5. The over 4.5 is plus 150. The under 4.5 is minus 195. I guess everyone thinks Kayla Harrison's going to go out here, crush Juliana Pena, probably submit her early. But I say no. I say Juliana Pena lasts the first 3 rounds, gives her the stamina sucker, and we see a round 4 submission for the Venezuelan Vixen, Juliana Pena. Sucks the energy, sucks the soul out of the jacked up Kayla Harrison. Round 4, a rear naked choke, Juliana Pena. Book it. Which way are you going here, man?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I do think that this fight, the betting odds, again, no value on any of these lines, because there's no reason why Kayla Harrison is that big of a favorite. I mean, we saw her in the last fight against Caitlin Vieira, and she looked okay, but I mean, if Caitlin Vieira wasn't so defensive, like she was more so defensively responsible, like she didn't want to put herself in a bad position, I think she really could have put on a little bit more and had beaten Kayla Harrison. And Kayla Harrison wouldn't even be fighting for the title right now. So I do think that it's a little bit crazy that Kayla Harrison is that big of a favorite. But I do think that Kayla Harrison gets it done. I just think that, the biggest thing for me is that Juliana Pena, she's so resilient. She's tough. She's a dog. She can take damage. Her big thing is that she does not actually have that great a takedown defense. And I believe I heard the stat that her takedown defense is 50% right now. And I know Amanda Nunes in the second fight had 6 takedowns against Juliana Pena going into that fight. I can't imagine that if Amanda Nunes, who obviously she has pretty good wrestling when she needed to use it, but, she was able to get 6 takedowns pretty easily like that against Juliana Pena. I got to imagine that Kayla Harrison is going to. And I just got to think that wrestling pressure is just going to get to Juliana at some point. And I still cannot get over the fact that Juliana Pena also got standing guillotined by GDR. Jermaine Durandamy standing guillotine Juliana Pena back in the day. If y'all actually didn't know that, so
5 years ago.
yeah,
5 years ago.
Still crazy, man. I can't get it. I still can't get the image out of my head. I'm going to go Kayla Harrison here. I think she gets a round 3 submission. I think Juliana makes it tough initially, but I think Kayla finally sinks that rear naked choke in and becomes the bantamweight champion.
Dude, I know UFC wants Kayla Harrison to win so bad so they can get Amanda Nunes to come back and have the fight that they wanted all along, dude. I just think Juliana spoils the plans again, as Lush is saying in the chat. So, with that being said, let's move on to the main event. I think Kayla uses her judo more than pure wrestling. She wasn't standing. Yeah, I agree. So, main event time, we have the rematch that I am personally excited for. We got Merab, the Machine, Dvalishvili taking on Sugar, Sean O'Malley, number 2. The Machine, Merab Dvalishvili, is 14-9 overall out of his last 5 fights. He is undefeated at 5-0. He is 34 years old, 5'6" and a 68-inch reach, while the Sugar, Sean O'Malley, is 18-2 overall out of his last 5 fights. He has a eye poke over Pedro Munoz, 3 wins, and then a loss to Merab in his last fight. That was 8 months and 2 weeks ago. Sean is 30 years old, 5'11", and a 72-inch reach. And yeah, it's no secret which way I'm going here. How can I not pick myself to win this fight? Like I went through the time, got my hair braided, got these sick face tattoos that now I have to live the rest of my life with. And yeah, I wouldn't know what to do with myself if Sean O'Malley didn't win this fight. So with that being said, I think Sean O'Malley ends up knocking Merab out, dude. I think he has the game plan now. He knows if you attack the body, Merab's not the most well-conditioned to the body, and we saw it in the 5th round there. We've seen him get dropped before. I think the combination to get Merab out of there is going to be like body kick, left hook, and it snoozes Merab. So with that being said, give me Sean O'Malley to knock out Merab. Let's go round number 2. But if he wins via decision, it's not going to surprise me one bit because I know O'Malley's ready to go all 5. But I think he can just catch Merab at some point, dude. He's been in there with them 5 rounds now. He's healthy now. He got the labrum surgery. I could not imagine training for Merab in his last camp, having the surgery scheduled for after the fight and knowing you can't really grapple in the entire camp. Kind of sucks, dude. So hopefully Sean's healthy this week, comes out here, does what the Sugar Show always does, and snoozes Merab in the 2nd round. But if he wins by decision, I won't hate it. Odds for the fight are currently Merab minus 285, the favorite. Sean O'Malley plus 230, the underdog. Over-under is 4.5. The over 4.5 is minus 280. The under 4.5 is plus 210. So for me, it's Sean O'Malley, round 2 knockout. How about you, D-Rose?
Yeah, I think for me, I think, in the first fight, I did pick Sean O'Malley. I thought he was going to win by, maybe like an early knockout or something like that. But, obviously going into the fight, I'd said, if Sean doesn't win the fight early, it's going to be Merab winning late. I still think the analysis is still the same. I think that, obviously Sean getting the rematch, is it deserved? Who cares at this point? It's just more or less for me. I just don't know if can he make the adjustments in the training room? Sure, but I still think you have to implement some of the changes in a fight before you can actually see if those changes that you tried to make in training come to fruition. And I just think that not having a fight in between their last fight is just really going to be something for Sean, a real big challenge for him, man. And I just think that Merab, he's had a big fight in between. He had the fight against Umar at the beginning of the year. You know, I told you at the beginning of the year, I thought that Merab was going to be the champ at the end of the year when we did our champion predictions, and I'm still going to stick with that, man. I just think that, you know, his style, I think Merab brings the fight down to his style so many times that it's just hard for other fighters to not be able to, no matter how much they try to implement their own pressure, they end up succumbing to Merab's game plan at the end of the day, just because that relentless pressure and control from Merab is just so hard to fend off after a while. So I think Merab here gets the job done. I still think it's a close fight. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout by any means. I think it's by decision. I think, you know, as you said, Sean kind of picked up on that. You know, maybe he could land the body shot in the 5th round. I kind of think Merab's going to be looking forward some of those body kicks when he's moving in, looking to maybe catch a leg, push Sean towards the fence, and start working in his takedowns like that, because Sean can stuff the first 3 or 4 takedowns. Well, what's he going to do on the 5th and the 6th and the 7th? And you know, it's just the nonstop pressure from Merab that makes him special. So I think Merab gets it done by decision.
How could you, D-Rose? But hey, you know, I pick against you quite often. You know, like tell you how now you have to go back to selling cars again. So, you know, hopefully you're wrong this week, and Sugar Matt comes out as the new champ. So right now, D-Rose, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different picks on the card, man. So we got to throw 2 of them off. So we will. What do I throw off here? Probably throw off Kayla Harrison, Pena, and Spivak, and fuck. I probably would have threw off Chaos versus Guts. Fuck, dude. You know,
I mean, you can throw that one off too. It doesn't matter, but
it is what it is.
I figured that you were probably the least confident in Sergey Spivak and Kayla Harrison. Those are the ones I just figured you'd throw off.
Yeah, those are probably the ones. But yeah, because Sergey, like on Waldo, I was kind of going back and forth. Pena and Harrison, you know, I'm just really hoping that Juliana can get it done. But what's going to suck now is when fucking Juliana, you know, submits her in the 4th, and then like fucking Patchy Mix wins, and that's the one that you fucking win on. Damn it!
You can take that one out. I mean, you can take that. I mean, hey, but to your credit too, hey, Patchy Mix is technically taking this fight on 3 weeks' notice. So
yeah. So our picks for the pick champ this week are going to be Quillen Salkild versus Yanal Ashmos. I'm going Quillen Salkild, D-Rose on Yanal Ashmos. Chaos Williams versus Andreas Gustafsson, where I am on Chaos Williams. D-Rose on Andreas Gustafsson. Kevin Holland versus Vicente Luque, where I am on Kevin Holland. D-Rose on Vicente Luque. Mario Bautista versus Patchy Mix, where I am on the dog. Mario Bautista, D-Rose on the favorite Patchy Mix. And the last one is Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili, where I am on the dog. Sean O'Malley, D-Rose on the favorite, Merab Dvalishvili. So I got a minus 500 favorite in Quillen Salkild, D-Rose going to big dog there. Chaos Williams, kind of an even fight, but I got the favorite minus 200. D-Rose got the plus 200 dog. Pretty big favorite for Kevin Holland as well. And then Mario Bautista is the dog, but plus 150. Yeah, D-Rose. So you got the biggest dog, but I have, you have 3 dogs. I got 2 dogs, but you got the biggest dog. Yeah, anyway, it don't really matter. It really don't matter, because at the end of the day, it's a fist fight and anything can happen. Don't forget it. Don't be out there betting all your money on these fights, because, you know, you could lose it all. So don't be betting more than you can afford to lose and all that good shit. Before we get out of here, D-Reps, you ready for change to cheddar on Friday, man? Are you going to be able to make it?
Yeah, we'll be all good. Right. I've actually I got a couple things in mind that I'm gonna play that I've been looking at. So I've already been doing a little bit of research, kind of heading into the weekend. So definitely going to be sharing some props, because yeah, as I said, these money lines ain't gonna be where the money's made this week.
Dude, I sent you a screenshot of a 7-leg parlay. It was like all the favorites, and it was like plus 218. Like, like it was just terrible. I was like, this is what we're dealing with like this weekend. So good luck. Change of cheddar will be fun. You know, as always, I try to do, 10 to win 100 or more, but it will be challenging this week. I'm definitely going to have to dip in to into some props and all that. Bruno Silva. Before we go, how's y'all's week been so far? Not terrible. I just hate my job. I wish I didn't have to do my job, but I'm sure that's how we all feel.
Yeah, no, pretty much same. I'd say. The week's been okay. Wednesdays are my day off. I went out, mowed the grass this morning, did a little weed eating and stuff like that. Doing a little stuff around the house and whatnot. So,
any more bears getting into your trash?
Yeah, of course. More bears in my yard. So, one came by the other day and got our trash out again. So we had to officially put our trash in the building now. So that way, hopefully it's protected. Because funny enough, you mentioned that last night we actually got footage of the bear going by our trash can, but we didn't have any trash in it. So he goes by and kind of smells it, and then he just turns around and walks away. So I'm like,
damn,
yeah, we're going to have to
these motherfuckers ain't have no trash this week.
Hey, like, you bastards, y'all ain't got no old moldy vegetables that's been sitting in y'all produce cabinet for 2 months.
Y'all ain't got no spaghetti.
Yeah. You ain't got no 2-week-old spaghetti that's been sitting in y'all's fridge.
Yeah. Crazy, dude. It's been pretty nice here. I can't complain.
Yeah. No, it's like a black bear. It's a black bear. And most of those types of bears they're honestly, for the most part, scared of human interaction just as much as the humans are scared to interact with them. It's just more or less the pain, because Matt has seen my backyard. My backyard is nothing but woods, so we're pretty sure the bear is coming up from the woods behind our house and is dragging the trash back there. So there's a big trash trail that ends up getting left down. So yeah, definitely a little bit annoying, but hey, we make a little bit of adjustment, put it in the building, and hey, he's gonna have somebody else's trash mess with us, because he ain't gonna be messing with mine.
Yeah, he's gonna be spreading it through your damn yard still, though. You're like, what the fuck? I'm not gonna pick up someone else's trash out of my yard.
Dude, funny enough, and as you mentioned bears again, dude, there was a clip of another bear running around on the parking lot up at my job the other day. It was a cub this time. So yeah, we've been bombarded with bears on this side of town. I don't know what it's been.
That's wild, man. That's wild. You gotta be careful. But as D-Ro said, I like the black bears. You just like clap real loud, dude. I'll never forget. I saw this one. My grandpa, like, it was like a black bear, like in a tree, and he clapped real loud, and the shit got scared and fell out, tumbled down that damn tree. I was laughing so hard. He got so scared, dude. But yeah, wildlife is fun. Wildlife is fun. So if you guys catch us here for a change of cheddar on Friday, this is what the thumbnail will look like. Where is it at? Well, the thumbnail will look like it'll be me and D Rose all, ready outside the Prudential Center to watch UFC 316. So you guys look forward to that for Friday. I believe it'll be around 10 p.m. because I'm pretty sure D Rose got to work until 8. Give him some time to eat and all that good shit. And then me and D Rose will be here giving you our last minute breakdown, preview, picks, and bets for UFC 316. So this was the Golden Octagon MMA Podcast 162. We recapped Vegas 107, gave you the news. I ate 3 beans this week, and Sugar, Shane O'Malley, was here. Special episode for you guys. Anything before we get out of here, D-Rose?
Doing the Juliana Pena stamina sucker.
Stamina sucker. All right. With that being said, we will catch you guys on Friday for Change of Cheddar. And y'all be safe. Y'all, just be good. We'll see you guys Friday. Peace.